Right, welcome to Growth Groups. We're excited about Growth Groups at CLC. I'm really pumped with what we're doing here at Growth Groups, what we're doing. So if you're new with us, what we're doing is a 3-year study journey really through the book of, through the Bible. I'm looking at it as one story, as one book. And the real big emphasis we're doing is we talk a lot about cat and dog theology. This thing I stole from somebody a lot smarter than myself. What we're really trying to do is not be cats, to be honest. Cats are very selfish, very self-centered. Cats have this idea with their owner. They think like this. Cats owners, they play with them, they take care of them, they feed them. Cats go, oh, well, I must be God. Look at how great you're treating me. I must be worth something. Dogs, on the other hand, their masters play with them, they feed them, they take care of them. They think, wow, you must be God. So we were asking ourselves the question in Growth Group, what would it do for us? How would we grow if we spent 3 years looking at the Bible like a dog? Looking at the Bible as if it wasn't a story that was all about us. If it wasn't an ancient form of Google where we could just type in a search engine, how can I be a better husband? How can I be better with my money? How can I be better with my religion? If we didn't look at the Bible that way, and you can get some good things out of that, but if we didn't look at it that way, if we just looked at it as, God, what is it? What do we learn about you? As if the Bible, which it is, by the way, as if it was all about the master, as if about what he has done, what he is doing now, and what he promises to do in the future, as if it was a story completely and utterly all about him. What would that do to us as Christians and our growth ability if we looked at it that way? And not only that, what if we prayed together about that? What if we prayed about how we could join him? We look at the Bible, we call the Bible the story of his glory. I got that from Perspectives. It's a class on missions. And the story of his glory is looking at the Bible as one cohesive story. It's all about God getting glory from every person, every tribe, every nation on earth. So what we're doing, we are now in the first semester of the second year. So the first year we started, first semester a year ago, we started with the book of Genesis, chapter 1, with God creating. God created everything. Everything was perfect. Everything was just beautiful, how it was. God said, man, go take dominion over this, be fruitful, multiply, work. God gave man work. Work wasn't a punishment, by the way. Work was the initial command for perfection of life. God and himself, humans and themselves, humans in relationship with God, human relationship with one another, human in their relationships with all of creation were at peace and perfect. And then Genesis chapter 3 happened in the fall, and mankind ate from the forbidden fruit, if you've heard that story, and they sinned. They went against God. They said, God, we don't like the way you've set this up. We want to be in charge. And when that happened, everything broke. The Bible says that with sin came death. Death to man's relationship with himself. We call that psychology now. Death in relationship with other human beings. We call that sociology now. Death in our relationship with God. We call that theology now. Death in our relationship with all of creation. Okay, is what's happening. And all this is breaking down these 4 main relationships we really focused on and how they're completely broken. And Genesis 3 through Genesis 11 begins to really expound how bad this idea of sin and these 4 broken relationships, how broke they are. Because it started in the garden in Genesis 3 with Adam and Eve, just them, and they were naked and they were hiding themselves from God. They were blaming other people, other things, and they were ashamed of themselves. And even creation was now broken. The snake was at enmity with them, and all kinds of things. And we saw how everything's completely broken. And then after that, we saw in Genesis 4 and 5 that Adam's family was broken too. It wasn't just confined to just Adam and Eve that sin was and death was doing, but now death was beginning to show itself to their children and their children's children. If you read the refrain in chapter 4 and 5 of Genesis, it's so-and-so lived and they died. So-and-so lived and they died. Whereas before, human beings lived forever. We ate from the tree of life, we're good to go. But since we ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that brought in death because we depended upon our knowledge, not God's life, to continue us. And so that began all the disintegration. So you go from Adam and Eve's family being broken with Cain and Abel and their descendants dying. So you get to chapter 6, which is all about Noah. Chapter 6, chapter 9 is all about Noah and the flood. And Noah, at that point, God is like, sin and death has gotten so rampant in every human's heart, I'm sad I ever created them. And this is tragic when God gets to this point. And so he says, okay, we're starting over. We're going to get Noah, we're going to get his 3 sons, their 3 wives, and we're going to get together and we'll start over. Noah is a new human. And we began with Noah and starting out over again. And after the flood, after the water recedes, chapter 9, God gives Noah 2 commands. So says, Noah, I want you to be fruitful. That means have babies, which Noah was good with. Now I want you to be fruitful, but also I want you and your descendants, I want you to spread out. Fill the whole earth. Don't stay together and trust yourselves. I want you to spread out and trust me. Go out by faith and trust me. A very interesting sidebar contrast between Abram, right? And he says, go out, trust me, I'll show you. And Abraham did, but Noah and his family didn't. They all stayed together. Genesis 11 is the story of Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel is where all of humanity is all together. They're all together. They all speak one language, and they're building a name for themselves. They're building a reputation for themselves. They're doing the same thing men were doing in Noah's day, and God was sad. They did the same thing that Cain was wanting to do, and God was sad. Same thing that Adam and Eve were doing in the garden, and it was continuing this broke cycle of the fall. So you end the introduction of the Bible, that first semester, we ended this idea of introducing the Bible by chapter 10. Chapter 10 is the Table of Nations. In the Table of Nations, there's 70 nations listed there, and it says they're organized by their tribes, by their families, and by their languages. Very, very important, by their languages. So now, God has spread out, and God said God spread them out. 70 nations spread all over the earth, according to their bloodlines, but also according to the way they spoke, because Tower of Babel, right, confused their language. They're spread out now, so we're at the end of the introduction of the Bible. So here's where we are in the introduction. Okay, God, the main character of the Bible, right, dog theology, how is God going to fix these 4 broken relationships? How's he going to do it? I mean, the human beings have just proven over and over again that they're broken, and that sin is reigning and just destroying everybody. It's just corrupt. You notice by the time you get Tower of Babel, nobody, there is no Noah, there is no righteous person left. Nobody. The whole world is completely corrupt. How's God going to do it? It seems like he's really at a point where he's in trouble. And how is God going to do? Because God promised in Genesis 3 that even though this sin happened, that one day a descendant of Eve, which is an interesting study, this one person was going to reverse the curse, was going to fix the broken 4 relationships, so that the serpent seed, okay, again, metaphorical language, the serpent seed down the road, Satan, evil, sin, death, okay, was going to bruise his heel. But this person, was going to smash the head. Right? So this is a good picture of the cross. We point to that when we get to that. It's the climax, right? But at this point in the story, we don't know about Jesus and that. We just have this picture that God promises somebody is going to solve this. And we don't know who, we don't know where they're going to come from. Then all of a sudden, chapter 12 begins. And chapter 12 is the beginning of the story. Okay, introduction, the main character, what's their problem. The story begins in chapter 12 of Genesis and goes all the way up to the beginning of the book of Revelation. And the story begins this way. God calls Abram, says, I want you to leave your family, your tribe, your land, your people who speak your language, and go to another place. I want to make you a new nation. So God makes a 71st nation, but this nation isn't by bloodlines, it's not by their language, it's by faith. God says, go, just go. I'm going to show you. It's like, where do you want me to go? Just go and trust me, and I'll show you. And here's what he says, and through your descendants, all of the earth will be blessed. All the earth will, these 4 relations will all be healed through somebody in your lineage, Abram. And it's like, okay, what nations? All nations are going to be saved. What nations? Well, the Table of Nations. God says, all of them. I'm going to save all of them through these people. Okay? I'm not going to just make you, Abraham, awesome and blessed, and I'm just going to bless you, and you're going to be blessed, and everything will be great for you, so that you can now help join my mission. I'm calling you into intimate relationship with me, Abram, because I'm saving you by my mission, but I'm saving you for my mission. Other Christians say you're blessed to be a blessing. Same kind of idea, right? So Abraham goes. Abraham has a son, Isaac. Isaac has a son, Jacob. Jacob is later renamed Israel. Jacob has 12 sons. The 11th son, Joseph. God favors him. God shows him in dreams when things are going to happen. They sell his brothers, fake his death, sell him off to slavery to Egypt. He goes to Egypt, becomes the prime minister of Egypt over the whole country, answer to nobody. God gives him an interpretation of a dream. He interprets the dream, and he says, listen, 7 years we're going to have plenty. But then after that, 7 years of really bad famine. 7 years, okay? Very, very long time. So because of Joseph's dream, in the 7 years of plenty they saved, and when the 7 years of famine happened, here's the Bible says that the whole earth came to Egypt looking for food. The whole earth, all nations came to Egypt saying, we have no food, help us out. And here's what happened. How did y'all know? How did y'all know this was going to happen? And for the first time in the Bible, when God promised Abraham in Genesis 12 that his family, all the nations would be blessed, it happened. Because when they got to Egypt, how did Prime Minister Joseph know? Oh, well, his God, the one true God, the God, showed him in this dream what was going to happen. Like, oh my gosh. Well, my God of fertility I've been worshiping back at home, they didn't say anything. And this was to be the God of all this stuff. Why did they not know this was going to happen? Wow, this God of Joseph, this God of Abraham must be the true and one God. First time God gets global worship. We see that in the Bible. Pretty cool. Okay, well, then it gets worse, right? Because then all of Joseph's family, they moved to Egypt, and it says later that Pharaoh's enslaved them. So for years and years, they're enslaved. 400 years goes by, God sends this man named Moses. And the book of Exodus starts. God sends Moses. Moses comes, and he talks to Pharaoh, let my people go. Pharaoh doesn't want to, so God sends 10 plagues on the gods of, look in your book, it says on the gods of Egypt. Because God said, listen, I don't want you guys getting this mixed up. I am God. All right, I want you all to know that I am the God and I'm working through my servant Moses and through my people Israel. And so God sends these plagues, completely devastates the gods of Egypt. Pharaoh finally throws his hands up and says, y'all get out, exit, which is the Latin word exodus comes from. So the Israelites leave Egypt, they go in the desert, they go meet God, like they literally hear God's voice from a mountain on Mount Sinai. They take the 10 Commandments dictated from God, right? 10 Commandments, soapbox, really should be translated 10 words because God actually spoke the words to all of Israel, not just Moses, contrary to what the movies tell you. So they get the law, they become a nation. God said, okay, you're now, it would be in Exodus 19, you're going to be a holy nation and a kingdom of priests. Okay? I've saved you from slavery. I've gotten you out of all of that, which is a mirror to the gospel, so that you can now join my mission. I want you to go amongst all the other nations, be right in the middle of them, and I want you to be holy, which just means set apart. I don't want you to be like them. I want you to be different. I'll be your king, you be my priest, and together you're going to be a kingdom of priests. And priest's job is to mediate the relationship between other humans and God. So Israel was created as a nation to do those two things, to be set apart, to be different than all the other nations, okay, and to help all the other nations come to have a relationship with God. Okay, that was their goal. So they set out from Exodus, Leviticus, they get more law, Numbers, they wander, they screw up a couple of times with the spies, they do some bad stuff there. They have to wander the desert for another 38 years, 40 years total. They finally get into the promised land. Moses dies, Joshua comes in, they conquer the promised land, and we're left, and this is how we ended last semester, we're left at the end of the book of Joshua with, okay, now Israel has gone from being a single person, Abram, to his family, Joseph and Jacob. Now they're in Egypt and they're doing well, but now they're a whole nation getting so big and they've let out, now they got a law on Mount Sinai, they're a nation. Now this nation has land, right? They have a place to home to live. They have a law, they have a king, God, right? And they have this mandate to go and spread the good news of God to all of the earth and to reconcile these 4 broken relationships. So we left this semester with how do they do? How are they going to do at their job of being a holy nation and a kingdom of priests? Okay, so this semester, as we go through this semester, and we talk about the book of Judges, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, as we go through that and look at some of the prophets, then we have to ask ourselves that question. How did Israel do at this? Not only how do they do, but then how does God respond? Because God's the main character, right? Watch how God deals with these people this semester. It's really incredible. You learn a lot about God. You learn a lot about his mission. It's a really, really incredible thing. So watch the progression of this nation and how now they have everything they've ever wanted or seeked after. God's given them every blessing in the world. What happens? And how did they go? So that's the story of the glory where we are so far. We're picking up in the book of Judges, starting our week, and then we'll go through Judges, 1st and 2nd Samuel, and then we'll go to 1st Kings, and we're going to end this semester in 1st Kings chapter 11 with the death of Solomon is where we're going to end. So I'm really excited. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in growth group this semester. I hope you understood everything. I didn't talk too fast. I tried to slow it down there for you, but I'm excited. If you have any questions, ask your growth group leaders. If you're on their website checking this out, get on there and find the growth group leaders information and send them an email. They can tell you everything you need to know. So enjoy it. Enjoy growth group. Have a great time, and we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.